Hello everyone and welcome back to Tales from the TBR. I am giving you guys my October wrap up, which is something in itself because I've read 17 books in October, which is quite a lot. Well, kind of like 17 and a half because I haven't quite finished my last book that I was reading, but I can't count it because I didn't finish it. So let me pull up my Notion real quick because I want to make sure I go. My cat, Finn, well, my kitten, who is 5 months old, Finn, is currently hiding under my bed. If you see him run out, that is why. There is just one book that I don't actually have because I did borrow it from my friend, but we'll get there when we get there. Okay, so I'm going to actually do this by genre instead because that's going to be way easier. So I know for a fact this is the first book that I finished, but I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. I gave this 5 stars. It is also the only memoir I've ever read. But at the same time, I feel like it was perfect. There was like nothing I could change about it. I listened to the audiobook, which had Jennette reading it. And granted, while I did listen to it on 2 times speed, that literally didn't hinder anything about it. It felt like that was the pace I should have been listening to it. Hi. Hi. But I gave it 5 stars because that is exactly what it deserves. Then after actually right before I was about to finish this, I picked up a physical copy because I needed one. I needed this. And it is perfect and I love it and I hope that Jennette gets to do more writing in her life. Okay, next up, I'm gonna do all of the manga that I read, which is a lot. I read volumes 1 through 7 of Haikyuu this month. All of them were 3 stars except for volume 4, and that is because in volume 4 they are having their training camp with Nakoma. All I could hear in my head was Kenma and Kuro, which are the 2 main characters from that team, but that's not the school's name. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars because I like Nakoma. But yeah, so I read all of these. I do have volumes 8, 9, and 10, which I plan on reading soon because I do love this series. I watched the anime when I was in high school, and then I recently, literally this month, picked up all 10 of the first volumes. I have a goal to own all 45 of them, so hopefully I can make that happen. But yeah, I read the first 7 this month and they were really good and I really liked it. Let's go for YA fantasy. This is more contemporary mystery. I read The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the 3rd book in the Inheritance Games trilogy, and the final book in the Inheritance Games trilogy. But Jennifer Lynn Barnes is not done with these guys yet, which I'm so happy about because I love this world and I love these characters. This was the final book. It was I wouldn't say it was my top anticipated release of the year, but it was one of them. And rightfully so, because I ate up the Inheritance Games and the Hawthorne Legacy. That is terrifying watching you do that. Oh my god. You can't see what he's doing, but he's literally like crawling underneath the bed against everything. That's horrifying. I hated seeing that. My cat was doing that. That looked like a demon was possessing him. I don't want to... I hated that. Finnegan. Hi. Anyways, back to this. I ate up the Inheritance Games in March, and then I immediately read The Hawthorne Legacy in April because I just needed it. And then I spent from April all the way until August waiting for this, but I spent until October waiting for this because I did get it in... I might have to kick him out. Sir, this is your eviction notice from under the bed. No, you're being a demon. A literal demon. Here, say hi. Say hi, I'm a demon. Okay, I love you so much. You're being kicked out. Life as a cat owner. Anyways, back to this. So I had to wait until October for the audiobook hold on Libby to get in because I had listened to the first two on audio and it felt only right to listen to the last one on audio. So that's what I did. Had to wait till October. Finally did it. Loved it so much. I gave this 4 stars. I gave everything in this series 4 stars, I believe, except maybe the first one, which I gave 3 because it's the first one. But I adored this. It was a good wrap up and it felt like it was a good ending to the story. Genuinely, I felt at peace with where everything landed, how the conflict got resolved, and it just felt like Avery had this big story that spanned, you know, her being in this world with the Hawthorne brothers, and she finally felt like she was part of them, and I loved it. Now, I will say, Jennifer Lynn Barnes is releasing a spin-off which is called The Brothers Hawthorne, which will be following Jameson and Grayson, and I'm so excited for it, like unbelievably excited for it, because Jameson and Grayson are my 2 favorite brothers. I take that back. Grayson and Xander are my 2 favorite brothers because I just like Grayson. But Jameson is kind of fun, and I think that them having a book is going to be very interesting because their dynamic is also very interesting, and I'm just excited to do more in this world now that Avery's story is done. So I'm very, very, very excited for the continuation of this, and I'm so happy that I have all 3 of them in hardcover because that was my goal, and now I have them. The next 2 books that I read were the last 2 books in the series. I'm going to talk about one and then the other. So I read Legendary by Stephanie Garber. I gave this 4 stars. This is the 2nd book in the Caraval trilogy, which I am now obsessed with. I'm just obsessed with it. And next year I plan on reading the spin-off series that she's writing that I believe involves Jax, who we meet in this book. This book took me for a freaking loop. I kind of figured out one of the twists because it was kind of obvious, and it was just kind of like, come on, Tella, you got to get there. You got to get there, Tella. I'm there. Tella, I need you to catch up with me. And the sacrifices in this and the ending of this and just in general, I was in love. I was in heaven. I adored this so much. I was losing my mind the whole time, and I loved it. I loved every second of it so much, and it was a solid 4 stars. I would actually give it 4.5 just because there was just that last 0.5 was missing for me, but I loved this book. Then I read Finale by Stephanie Garber. Yeah, I finished this series in this month, which was wild. But there's literally a picture on my Instagram of me listening to the audiobook, and one of the twists happens in this as I'm taking these pictures, and you just get to see the moment, and I think it's so wholesome and kind of perfect, but I loved this. I felt like it was such a good ending. Like, oh my god, I was so obsessed. I'm obsessed with Scarlett. I'm obsessed with Julian. I'm obsessed with Dante. Dante. I'm obsessed with Jax. I'm obsessed with Tella. This world is so interesting, and the magic in this world is interesting, and the fates are interesting, and the people are interesting, and I am obsessed. I think this could be a series I reread often, because I was just in, you know, I was just in. I was there. I was side up. I said, Stephanie Garber, tell me your tale. I will listen to your tale, ma'am. Tell me your tale. And she told me the tale. Ooh boy, did she tell me the tale. And I just lost it. I lost it. I thought the ending of this was so shocking. And I still can't believe that I read this, because I've had Caraval for at least 2 years, hadn't read it yet, read it, and then immediately finished the series because I was just so obsessed with it. This was so stinking good. If you haven't read the Caraval series, I highly suggest it. It's so good. It did a good itch in my brain with the games and the puzzles and the clues. I was here, you know? And in a time in October, because the reason I read 17 books is because I have noticed, at least for me, when I am stressed out and not wanting to A, take care of my other responsibilities, or B, I don't want to pay attention to the world around me, I disassociate by reading. I read 17 books this month. That tells you how it was. At a time when my brain didn't want to process or do anything, having these books itch the good part of that felt so nice. Now we're going to talk about the romances that I read, because your girl read some romances. Did I mark you as done? I did. Solid. So, actually, I should talk about the one book that I don't have. It's a YA contemporary. It is called Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. It is a 5-star read. I borrowed this from my friend Evie because we did a little book swap, although she gave me one book and I gave her like a whole tote bag full because I just happened to have a good chunk of her TBR, but you know, it's fine. I'm making her dreams come true, you know? So, in that book swap, I got Nick and Charlie for a bit, and I read it within a day of having it. I read it in one sitting. I gave it 5 stars because, if you don't know, I love Nick and Charlie with my whole being. I think they're amazing. I adore them so much. So much. I just can't get enough of them. When Heartstopper Season 2 comes out, I'm just going to watch it all. I'm just going to be like, yes, Netflix. Heartstopper Season 1 is my most watched TV show of this year. It is my comfort watch. I watched it at least 4 times on my own. Then my boyfriend read the graphic novel series and I made him watch the TV show with me. And I will for sure probably watch it again because I love it so much. It is as much a comfort to me as the Great British Baking Show is, which those are my ultimate comfort shows. If I'm having a bad day, one of those is going to be on the television. So that is the book that I don't have, that I can't show you because it's not mine. I do want my own copy, but I just don't currently have one. But Evie was kind enough to let me borrow hers so I could read it so fast, which I demolished it. On to romance. The last 4 books are romance. Yep. So 2 of them are witchy books because obviously October, witchy. So the first one is The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. I gave this 3 stars. It was bordering between 2.5 and 3, so I just ended up going with a low 3. This was kind of disappointing for me. I ended up turning the audiobook onto like 2.8 times speed because I was just so bored the whole time. I listened to this entirely during a session of sprints with Mel and Olivia, and listen, I know it's short, so like the fact that I listened to it in the span of you know, a couple hours isn't that surprising, but the fact that I had to bump it up to 2.8 times speed to even keep me kind of interested was was a downer for me. I wanted more from this because it has so much hype, and I just didn't feel like it deserved it. The plot is meh. The characters don't really have much going on. There's not much to them, really. At least nothing that I felt stood out to me. I didn't find the love interest even remotely interesting. The most interesting thing about him was that he was from Wales. That's really it. And the big surprise twist, whatever, it didn't shock me, and I just didn't care. So, yeah, I read it. I'm not really happy that I read it. I don't think I will be holding on to my copy of this. I think I'm actually going to get rid of it because I just, I don't feel like I want to keep this. I overall don't think I would also read The Kiss Curse. I've heard that it's better, but I don't really like this world either. I just think it's kind of meh. So, and I don't want meh. I want greatness. So then the last physical book that I have to show you, because the rest aren't on my Kindle, or were on my Kindle until I returned them to Kindle Unlimited, is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. And I give this 4 stars. I would not categorize this as a romance. This is very much so, I would say, just fiction. I loved this so much. It is slice of life. It was so perfect. It was not as focused on the romance as it was about our main character, Mika, trying to find her place not only in this world as a witch, but with this family that she ends up helping out with, these 3 little witches. And I loved it. I loved it so much. I just couldn't stop reading it. I read it in one day because it deserved my full attention, and I could not put it down. I was so interested, and the writing was so good, and Mika was so interesting, and this kind of like taboo modernized world where magic is supposed to be a secret. I was just so interested, and I loved this little found family aspect that we had. It was perfect, and I think this is a really, really good book. And I also think it doesn't have to be spooky season for you to read this, because it's not as focused on the magic as it is about the interpersonal relationships. So I loved this. I think you should read it. This is one of like the best books of the year for me, just because, granted, it's not 5 stars, but the feelings that I got from it were very good. Now, the last 2 books I read on my Kindle, and they were from Kindle Unlimited. And the first one was Light in the Dark by Kate McWilliams. I started the Moon Harbor series because on TikTok I got recommended from like a little blurb or whatever, the 3rd book in the series. And because I'm me, I was like, I can't read the 3rd book in a series without reading the 1st and the 2nd. So I read the 1st. I give it 3 stars. All of the sudden, at about 80% of the way through this book, it got very dramatic. I'm not going to spoil anything for you in case you want to read it, but I will say, be warned, it goes from normal to dramatic in like 2 seconds, from like one chapter to the next. I was shooketh to my core, but I was like, you know what? I can't put this shit down. Tell me more. I didn't necessarily love the characters. I wasn't like, oh my god, I'm obsessed with Alexandra or I'm obsessed with Sam. Granted, Sam Waters, hot man. But, I wasn't like, oh my god, Sam Waters has to go on the fictional man list. He was not fictional man list material for me. I just, I think the reason that it got a 3-star was mainly because of the odd dramatics that happened. It just felt like it didn't need to be there, and it also kind of felt like the author felt like she had to put something super dramatic in for the 3rd act conflict because she didn't want to break up her characters, which I thought felt like it could have been that, because these 2 characters already had a past together. They dated for a summer, you know, granted they still had chemistry and then they get back together or whatever, but I just felt like it could have been something else that was not that dramatic. The last book that I read in October was All Downhill with You by Julie Olivia. This was another TikTok recommendation. I gave it 3 stars. It was just missing that je ne sais quoi. And, you know, I said this in the vlog that you're going to end up seeing when I finish this. But I thought the third act conflict got resolved so fast. Ridiculously fast. That, you know, it didn't feel like it needed to be a conflict. It just felt like, oh, if we would have just sat down and talked for like 2 seconds, we would have been on the same page. But that's not what happened. And I was just like, I will say though, Emery Dawson is pretty hot. Not on the fictional man list because he didn't do much to be there, but he was pretty hot. So I guess that's all I have to say about that, because there wasn't much. I didn't feel like, you know, if I could compare it to anything, I would compare it to The Fine Print, which I feel like I like The Fine Print more than this. They are both amusement park centered books. You know, they both have kind of this tycoon of the park or whatever coming into the park, and then this employee that works for the park. But I felt like The Fine Print did it better and had better characters than All Downhill with You. That's all I got for you. So those are all of the books that I read in October. I don't know if I will ever read this much again. Stay tuned to find out. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments down below what you read in October, how your October was. You know, I hope it was better than mine. And if you guys like this content, make sure to subscribe. I currently don't have a posting schedule because I am just getting back into the swing of things, but you can turn on that notification bell to be notified when I post. So I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.